The call came while I was balancing 3 plates of steaming hash browns and wondering how my life had turned into this. 5 years ago, I would have laughed if someone told me I'd be wearing a polyester uniform and dodging drunk college students at 2 a.m. My name is Deborah, and I used to be somebody. The kind of somebody who got written up in food magazines and had reservations booked 6 months in advance. Now I'm lucky if I get a $5 tip from the morning rush crowd. Order up! Tommy, our short order cook, bellowed from behind the griddle. I grabbed the plates and plastered on my best waitress smile. Here's your grand slam, sir. Careful, the plate's hot. The businessman barely looked up from his phone. Classic. When I finally got my break, I checked my phone. 5 missed calls from an unlisted number and 1 voicemail. I stepped into the alley behind the diner, lit a cigarette I'd been craving all morning, and hit play. Deborah? It's Anna. Look, I know we haven't spoken in forever, but I need your help. It's about my wedding. Please call me back. The cigarette trembled between my fingers. My sister. The golden child. The one who'd stood by and watched while everything I'd built crumbled around me. You okay, Deb? Natasha poked her head out the back door, her dark curls escaping from under her uniform cap. You look like you've seen a ghost. My sister just called. I took another drag. She's getting married. The corporate princess? The one who, yeah, that one. Natasha leaned against the brick wall beside me. What does she want? Help with her wedding, apparently. I laughed, but it came out hollow. Funny how family only remembers you exist when they need something. Are you going to call her back? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. Anna's number. Might as well get it over with. I muttered, hitting accept. Hello? Oh, thank God. Anna's voice gushed through the speaker. I've been trying to reach you all morning. I work for a living, Anna. Some of us don't have the luxury of answering personal calls during business hours. There was a pause. Right, sorry. Listen, I need to talk to you about something important. Can we meet? I'm working. When do you get off? I glanced at Natasha, who was pretending not to eavesdrop. 4. Perfect. I'll come to, where is it you work now? Sunny Side Up Diner, corner of 5th and Main. Oh. The disdain in her voice was unmistakable. Well, I'll see you at 4 then. The line went dead. Natasha raised an eyebrow. Well? She's coming here, today. I crushed my cigarette under my shoe. To my humble establishment. Want me to accidentally spill coffee on her designer outfit? That made me smile. Thanks, but I better handle this myself. The rest of my shift crawled by. Every time the bell above the door chimed, my stomach clenched, expecting to see Anna's perfectly coiffed head appear. At 3:55, it finally happened. She walked in like she was entering a crime scene, clutching her Prada bag close as if someone might snatch it. Her eyes scanned the worn vinyl booths and scratched Formica tables before landing on me. Deborah. She attempted a smile. You look healthy. Thanks, you look expensive. I gestured to an empty booth. Have a seat. Coffee? God, no. Do you have any green tea? We have Lipton. She winced. Water is fine. I brought her water and slid into the booth across from her. Up close, I could see the strain around her eyes, the slight tremor in her manicured hands as she arranged the sugar packets in perfect rows. So, I said, you're getting married. Yes, to Connor. He's wonderful, CEO of his own tech startup. The wedding's in 6 weeks. Congratulations, but I'm still not clear on why you're here. Anna took a deep breath. Our caterer just backed out. Something about a family emergency in Europe. And I need someone who understands food. Someone who can create something spectacular on short notice. I stared at her. Are you serious? I know it's asking a lot. Asking a lot? I leaned forward. You haven't spoken to me in 3 years, Anna. Not since Earl took everything and you sided with him. Now you want my help? I didn't side with anyone, she hissed, glancing around the diner. I just didn't want to get involved. Right. Because that's what family does. Stays neutral while watching their sister lose everything she's worked for. Anna's face crumpled slightly. Please, Deborah, I'm desperate. The guest list includes half the tech industry's elite. I can't serve them rubber chicken and frozen vegetables. I sat back, studying my sister's face. Something clicked in my mind, a possibility so delicious it made me smile. You know what? I'll help you. Her eyes lit up. Really? On one condition. I leaned in close. Nobody can know it's me. As far as anyone's concerned, I'm just part of the catering staff. Deal? Anna nodded eagerly, relief flooding her features. If she'd known me better, she might have wondered why I gave in so easily. But then again, my sister never was very good at reading people. That's what made this perfect. You want me to what? Natasha nearly dropped the coffee pot she was refilling. It was the morning after Anna's visit, and I'd just shared my plan. Help me cater my sister's wedding. Under the radar. I wiped down the counter, avoiding her incredulous stare. The pay is good. That's not why you're doing this, and we both know it. She set the pot down and leaned in close. This is about revenge, isn't it? Before I could answer, the bell chimed. Anna walked in, this time accompanied by a tall man in an expensive suit. Connor, I presumed. They looked like they'd stepped out of a corporate magazine cover. Deborah! Anna's voice carried across the diner, making several customers look up from their plates. We need to discuss the menu. I gestured toward an empty booth. Give me 5 minutes. As they settled in, Natasha whispered, That's the guy she's marrying? He looks like he irons his socks. Probably does. I grabbed my notepad and approached their table. What can I get you? Just coffee, Connor said, not looking up from his phone. Black. Anna cleared her throat. Actually, we should eat something. We need to discuss your contribution to the event. I noticed how carefully she avoided any mention of cooking or catering. Heaven forbid anyone overhear that her waitress sister was handling the food for her society wedding. The special today is blueberry pancakes, I said, keeping my voice professional. Made from scratch. Oh, I couldn't possibly... Anna started. We'll take 2 orders. Connor interrupted, finally looking up. I've heard good things about this place. Anna's face tightened, but she didn't object. I headed to the kitchen, feeling their eyes on my back. When I returned with their food, Connor took one bite and his eyes widened. These are incredible. Did you make these? The recipe's mine, I said carefully. Tommy executes it well. Anna pushed her pancakes around the plate. About the wedding menu. We need to discuss budget and expectations. Of course. I pulled out my notepad again, playing the part of the dutiful help. What did you have in mind? Well, we're expecting about 200 guests. Many of them are quite particular about their food. She means they're food snobs, Connor said, still devouring his pancakes. Half of them probably haven't eaten carbs since 2010. I jotted down notes. Dietary restrictions? At least 30 vegetarians, a dozen vegans, and various gluten-free requests. Anna rattled off numbers like she was giving a board presentation. And everything needs to be elevated. Elevated, I repeated, thinking of the Michelin star that used to hang in my restaurant's kitchen. Yes, you know. She waved her hand vaguely. Sophisticated, nothing too diner-like. The pencil snapped in my hand. What my fiancé means, Connor interjected, shooting Anna a look, is that we trust your expertise. We want you to create something special. I took a deep breath. I have some ideas. A modern take on classical French cuisine, perhaps? Or maybe Japanese Mediterranean fusion. I heard that's quite popular in certain elevated circles. Anna missed the sarcasm completely. Yes, exactly. Something like that. But can you handle something so complex? Anna, Connor warned. I just mean, it's been a while since you've worked in a proper kitchen. The diner had gone quiet. I could feel Natasha's protective anger radiating from behind the counter. I can handle it, I said quietly. In fact, I'll prepare a tasting menu for you next week, just to ensure it meets your standards. Perfect. Anna clapped her hands. We'll bring a few friends to give their opinion. Is Wednesday good? Wednesday's perfect. I'll need to use your venue's kitchen. Oh, we're having it at the Riverside Hotel. They have a fantastic kitchen. She paused. You'll need to use the service entrance, of course, and wear appropriate attire. Of course. I smiled tightly. Wouldn't want to embarrass you. That's not what I should get back to work. I gestured at their plates. Will there be anything else? Connor reached for his wallet. Just the check. And Deborah? He looked me in the eye for the first time. Thank you for doing this. It means a lot to us. I nodded and walked away, my hands shaking slightly. Natasha intercepted me at the counter. You okay? Fine. I started arranging sugar packets with unnecessary force. Just planning a menu that will remind my dear sister exactly who I am. And who's that? I looked up, a slow smile spreading across my face. Someone who knows how to make every bite count. As I watched Anna and Connor leave, I could already taste it. The perfect combination of flavors that would make my sister's wedding unforgettable. Not because it would be bad, but because it would be the best meal she'd ever had. And she would never be able to tell anyone who made it. The Riverside Hotel's kitchen gleamed with stainless steel and possibility. I ran my hand along the smooth countertop, memories flooding back of my own restaurant kitchen. The same layout, the same professional-grade equipment. Only this time I was wearing a plain black uniform instead of chef's whites. The prep area is through there, the kitchen manager said, pointing. You'll have full access from 2 p.m. onwards. Perfect. I started unpacking my knives, the familiar weight of each one grounding me. Those are nice, he commented, eyeing my knife roll. Japanese steel? Yes, from when I caught myself. From a previous job. He nodded and left me alone. As I arranged my workspace, the door swung open and Natasha walked in, carrying bags of fresh ingredients. You wouldn't believe what I just overheard in the parking lot, she said, setting down the bags. Anna's out there talking to some guy about the mystery chef she hired. Apparently, she's telling everyone you trained in Paris. I laughed. I did train in Paris, for 3 years. Yeah, but she's taking credit for discovering some hidden talent. Natasha started unpacking vegetables. She has no idea it's you, does she? Not a clue. I pulled out my old recipe notebook, its pages stained and dog-eared. Help me prep these mushrooms? As we worked, I found myself slipping back into old rhythms. Dice, chop, sauté. The familiar dance of creating something extraordinary from simple ingredients. Tell me about it, Natasha said suddenly. About what happened with Earl. My knife paused over a shallot. It's ancient history. Is it? Because you're here, planning an elaborate revenge through food, so it seems pretty current to me. I sighed, resuming my chopping. Earl was my sous chef, and my partner, in every sense. We built the restaurant together, or so I thought. The mushrooms hit the hot pan with a satisfying sizzle. One day, I came in early and found him with the investors. He'd convinced them I was unstable, unreliable. Said I was drinking too much, missing service, endangering the restaurant's reputation. I stirred the mushrooms harder than necessary. None of it was true. And your sister. Anna worked at the law firm representing the investors. She could have spoken up, confirmed I was stable. Instead, she stayed professional and uninvolved. Within a week, I was bought out of my own restaurant. Earl took over as head chef. That's messed up. The best part? 6 months later, the restaurant lost its Michelin star. Earl couldn't handle the pressure. Last I heard, he's working as a corporate chef for some chain restaurant in the suburbs. The kitchen door swung open again. Anna walked in, followed by 3 women in designer clothes. Oh, she stopped short, seeing me in my chef's whites. I didn't expect you to be here already. Prep takes time, I said, not looking up from my work. If you want quality. One of the women peered at the stove. What are you making? Wild mushroom risotto with black truffle and aged parmesan. I added a splash of white wine to the pan. First course of the tasting menu. Sounds simple, Anna said, in that tone she used when she meant the opposite. I smiled. Sometimes the simplest things are the hardest to get right. For the next hour, I worked while they watched. Each dish came together exactly as I'd planned. The risotto, followed by butter-poached lobster, then duck breast with cherry gastrique, and finally a dark chocolate soufflé that rose perfectly in the oven. When I plated the first course, even Anna fell silent. "This is," one of her friends started. "Incredible," another finished. I watched as they tasted each dish, their expressions shifting from skepticism to surprise to pure pleasure. Anna kept glancing at me, confusion evident in her eyes. "Where did you learn to cook like this?" she asked finally. "Around," I said vaguely, cleaning my station. "You pick things up." "Well," one of the women said, scraping her plate clean, "whoever trained you deserves a medal. This is better than what we had at Le Bernardin last month." I turned away to hide my smile, remembering the week I'd staged there years ago. "So we're agreed?" Anna asked her friends. "This is perfect for the wedding?" They nodded enthusiastically. As they prepared to leave, I heard one whisper to Anna. "Where did you find her?" "She's amazing." "Oh, you know," Anna replied airily. "I have connections in the industry." After they left, Natasha helped me clean up. That was quite a show. Just warming up. I carefully wrapped my knives. The wedding menu will be even better. "You're really going to do this?" Let her take credit for finding some amazing unknown chef. I looked around the kitchen at the remains of the meal I'd created. A meal that had momentarily rendered my sister speechless. "Sometimes," I said, "revenge tastes better when served with a perfect soufflé." 3 weeks before the wedding, I was deep in menu planning when I overheard something that made my blood run cold. "Earl's consulting on the menu?" a server was saying to another as they passed through the hotel kitchen. I thought they already had a chef. I nearly dropped the whisk I was holding. Natasha, who was helping me test recipes, grabbed my arm. "Did they just say Earl?" The name tasted bitter in my mouth. Anna hired Earl to consult. As if summoned by his name, the kitchen door swung open, and there he stood. Earl hadn't changed much. Same carefully styled hair, same expensive chef's coat with his name embroidered on the breast. He stopped short when he saw me. "Deborah?" His face went pale. "What are you doing here?" "I work here." I continued whisking my sauce, proud that my hands weren't shaking. "The question is, what are you doing here?" "I'm consulting on the Bradley Owens wedding." He glanced around nervously. "Anna hired me to oversee the menu." "Did she now?" I set down my whisk carefully. "Interesting, considering I'm creating the menu." "You?" He laughed, but it sounded forced. "You're working as a caterer now?" "Better than working at Applebee's," I shot back, watching his face redden. "How is corporate cooking treating you?" Before he could respond, Connor walked in. "Earl, there you are. I see you've met our chef." "We've met," I said quietly. Connor looked between us, confusion crossing his face. "You know each other?" "You could say that," Earl muttered. "Earl and I used to work together," I said, my voice steady, "at my restaurant." Understanding dawned on Connor's face. "Wait, you're that Deborah? The one who owned—" "Don't." Earl cut in sharply. "That's ancient history." "Ancient history that cost me everything," I said, turning back to my sauce. "Including my Michelin star." Connor's expression changed. "Earl, can we talk outside?" They left, leaving me alone with Natasha, who had witnessed the whole exchange in uncharacteristic silence. "You okay?" she asked finally. "No." I grabbed a spoon and tasted my sauce. "Needs more acid." The kitchen door opened again, this time admitting Anna, who looked flustered. "Deborah, we need to talk. About how you hired my ex-partner to consult on the menu?" I added a splash of vinegar to the sauce. "The same ex-partner who destroyed my career?" "I didn't know you were the chef." Anna protested. You insisted on staying anonymous. And that makes it better? The spoon clattered against the counter. Of all the consultants in the city, you had to hire Earl? He has a good reputation. Because he stole it from me. My voice echoed off the steel surfaces. He stole everything from me, and you helped him do it. Anna stepped back. That's not fair. I didn't take sides. That was taking sides. I advanced on her. When someone hurts your family and you do nothing, you're choosing the person doing the hurting. The kitchen fell silent, except for the gentle bubbling of my sauce. I'm sorry, Anna said finally. I really am. But this wedding is important. I need it to be perfect. And you don't think I can deliver perfect without Earl's supervision? That's not what Here. I grabbed a clean spoon and dipped it in the sauce. Taste this. She hesitated, then took the spoon. Her eyes widened as she tasted it. This is sauce vin jaune, I said. The same sauce that earned me my first Michelin star. The same sauce Earl could never quite master. Anna stared at the pot. You really made this? I really made this. Just like I'll make every single dish at your wedding perfect. Not because Earl is supervising, but because that's who I am. That's who I've always been. The door opened again and Connor entered. Earl's gone. I fired him. Anna spun around. You what? I did some research, called some people in the industry. He looked at me. What happened to you was wrong. I won't have him anywhere near our wedding. I felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but something close to vindication. Thank you, I said quietly. Don't thank me. He picked up a spoon and dipped it in my sauce. Just keep cooking like this. After they left, Natasha bumped my shoulder. So much for staying anonymous. Connor knows, but Anna still doesn't know I'm her sister's mystery chef. I turned back to my stove. And I intend to keep it that way until the perfect moment. When's that? I smiled, reaching for the vinegar again. When the sauce is perfect. The encounter with Earl had shaken me, but it had also reminded me of something important. I wasn't just good at what I did. I was exceptional. And in 3 weeks, everyone at that wedding would know it too, including my sister. 1 week before the wedding, I was elbow deep in prep lists when someone cleared their throat behind me. I turned to find an elegant older woman watching me with knowing eyes. Hello, Deborah, she said. It's been a while. Meredith? I nearly dropped my clipboard. Meredith had been a regular at my restaurant, one of the few who'd tried to reach out after everything fell apart. I'd been too ashamed to respond. I hear you're creating magic again. She walked over to examine my prep station. Anna has no idea, does she? How did you— I'm catering coordinator for the hotel. She smiled. When I saw the menu, I knew it had to be you. Nobody else makes chocolate soufflé with that particular lavender twist. I set down my clipboard. Are you going to tell her? That depends. Meredith leaned against the counter. Are you doing this for revenge or redemption? Before I could answer, Anna burst into the kitchen, wedding binder clutched to her chest. Emergency! She stopped short at the sight of Meredith. Oh, thank God you're here. The florist just called. They delivered white peonies instead of pink. Breathe, dear, Meredith said calmly. I'll handle it. And the string quartet has food poisoning. Anna's voice rose an octave. Something about bad sushi. I exchanged glances with Meredith. Anna, sit down before you pass out. To my surprise, she actually listened, sinking onto a kitchen stool. Everything's falling apart, she whispered. This wedding was supposed to be perfect. Nothing's falling apart, Meredith said firmly. I know an excellent jazz quartet who can fill in. As for the flowers— She pulled out her phone. Leave it to me. Anna's shoulders slumped. At least the food will be amazing. That's what everyone keeps saying after the tasting. I busied myself with my prep list, trying not to smile. Speaking of the tasting, Meredith said carefully, have you ever wondered why this mysterious chef's food tastes so familiar? My head snapped up. Anna looked confused. What do you mean? Nothing. Meredith caught my eye. Just that great chefs have distinctive styles. The kitchen door swung open again, admitting Connor and an older man I recognized from photos as his father, Oliver. There you are, Connor said to Anna. Dad wanted to see where the magic happens. Oliver surveyed the kitchen, his eyes lingering on me. So you're the chef everyone's talking about. I just cooked the food, I said modestly. She's being humble, Meredith interjected. Wait until you taste her duck breast with cherry gastrique. It reminds me of another chef I used to know. I shot her a warning look. Actually, Oliver said, I had a remarkable duck dish years ago at a restaurant downtown. What was it called? The Golden Knife, I said quietly. Yes. Shame what happened there. The chef was brilliant. Anna shifted uncomfortably. Dad, we should go check on the ballroom setup. In a moment. Oliver turned to me. You know, you remind me of her. Same attention to detail. High praise, I managed. After they left, Meredith touched my arm. You okay? Fine. I grabbed a knife and started chopping herbs with perhaps more force than necessary. Just wondering what Anna would do if she knew her perfect wedding was being catered by her disgraced sister. Maybe it's time she knew. Not yet. I scraped the herbs into a container. First, I need to prove something. To her or to yourself? Before I could answer, Natasha rushed in. Deb, you need to hear this. She pulled out her phone and played a voice memo. It was Anna talking to someone. Can't believe how things worked out. After that disaster with Earl, finding this chef was like fate. Everyone's impressed, even Dad's food critic friends. It's like I have a sixth sense for talent. I turned off the recording. She's taking credit for discovering me? There's more, Natasha said grimly. She's planning to announce at the reception that she's starting a restaurant consulting business based on her expert ability to spot culinary talent. The knife in my hand trembled slightly. Well, Meredith said after a moment, it seems the universe has handed you the perfect opportunity for your big reveal. I looked at my prep lists, at the carefully planned menu that would showcase every skill I'd spent years perfecting. Skills my sister was planning to use to launch her new career. You know what? I said, straightening up. I think it's time to add one more special dish to the menu. Something memorable. What are you planning? Natasha asked. I smiled, thinking of the signature dish that had earned me my Michelin star. The one dish Earl had never managed to replicate. Let's just say the bride isn't the only one who'll be making an announcement at the reception. The wedding day kitchen buzzed with controlled chaos. I moved through it like a conductor, directing my temporary staff with precision born from years of experience. Every dish had to be perfect, not just good, but Michelin star perfect. First course going out in 10, I called out, watching servers line up with plates of my signature scallop dish. Natasha appeared at my side. You should see the dining room. It's packed with food critics and restaurant owners. Anna's been going table to table, talking about her incredible find of a chef. Perfect. I adjusted a garnish on one of the plates. Let her dig the hole deeper. The kitchen doors swung open and Meredith rushed in. Slight change of plans. Anna wants to make her announcement before the main course instead of dessert. Even better. I wiped my hands on my apron. The beef will be the perfect backdrop for what I have planned. Speaking of plans, Meredith lowered her voice. Oliver's been asking questions about the golden knife. Before I could respond, one of the servers burst in. Chef, Table 12 says these are the best scallops they've ever had. They want to know if you'll come out and talk to them. Tell them the chef is focused on preparing the main course. I turned back to my station, but Meredith caught my arm. You can't hide forever, Deborah. Watch me. I checked the temperature of my sauce. Perfect. The next hour passed in a blur of plating and timing. Each course went out flawlessly, earning waves of compliments that filtered back to the kitchen. I could hear the dining room growing louder with appreciation and wine-fueled excitement. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. Ladies and gentlemen, Anna's voice carried through the speakers. Before we serve the main course, I have an exciting announcement. I nodded to Natasha, who began plating the beef. Each plate was a work of art. Perfectly seared tenderloin, sauce painted with precision, garnishes placed just so. And that's why I'm thrilled to announce the launch of my new venture, Bradley Culinary Consulting. Anna continued. Using my expertise in discovering hidden culinary talents, like the amazing chef creating your meal tonight? Now, I said quietly. Meredith opened the kitchen doors and servers began streaming out with plates. But these weren't just any plates. They were my signature dish from the Golden Knife, the one that had earned write-ups in every major food publication. Is that... One of the older critics stood up as his plate was set down. This is impossible. I haven't seen this dish since... The dining room erupted in murmurs. Anna's voice faltered. As I was saying, my ability to spot talent... Excuse me. The critic interrupted, standing. But this is Deborah's beef tenderloin with black garlic and truffle emulsion. I'd know it anywhere. Are you saying she's cooking here tonight? The room fell silent. Anna stood frozen at the microphone. I took a deep breath, untied my apron, and walked through the kitchen doors. Hello, everyone. My voice carried across the suddenly silent room. Yes, I'm the chef. And yes, this is my signature dish from the Golden Knife. Anna's face went from red to white. Deborah, what are you doing? What I do best. Cooking. I turned to address the room. Many of you knew me when I had my restaurant. Some of you were there the night I earned my Michelin star. And some of you wondered where I went after everything. The critic who had recognized my dish was beaming. Welcome back, chef. My sister, I continued, watching Anna grip the microphone stand, didn't discover some hidden talent. She hired her own sister, the one who lost everything 3 years ago, to cater her wedding. She just didn't know it was me. The room erupted in conversation. I could see food critics pulling out their phones, no doubt already composing tweets and articles. You planned this, Anna accused, her voice shaking. You set me up. No, Anna, you set yourself up. You were so busy trying to use my food to launch your consulting business that you forgot one important thing. What's that? Great food tells its own story. I gestured to the plates. And this is my story. Always has been. Oliver stood up, clapping slowly. Others joined in until the whole room was applauding. I saw Connor leading a shell-shocked Anna back to her seat. Chef, the critic called out, please tell me you're coming back to the industry. I smiled, thinking of all the nights I'd spent planning this moment. Actually, I have an announcement of my own. Next month, I'm opening a new restaurant. Smaller than the Golden Knife, more intimate. I'm calling it Second Course. More applause, more phones coming out. Anna sat at her table, staring at her plate. I headed back to the kitchen, where my staff waited. Right, everyone. We still have 200 perfect plates to serve. Let's show them what we can do. As I pushed through the doors, I heard Meredith say to Natasha, now that's what I call a comeback. Indeed it was. And we weren't even at dessert yet. The dessert course was about to go out when Anna stormed into the kitchen, her white dress swishing against the stainless steel counters. How dare you? She grabbed my arm, spinning me around. This was supposed to be my day. Careful, I said, gently removing her hand. You wouldn't want to get chocolate on that dress. It's Vera Wang, right? This isn't funny, Deborah. You humiliated me in front of everyone. No, I corrected her, continuing to plate the soufflés. You humiliated yourself by trying to build a business on someone else's talent. My talent. Natasha appeared with fresh berries for garnish. Should I call security? That won't be necessary, a new voice said. Oliver stood in the doorway, Connor beside him. But we do need to talk. All of us. I checked the soufflés. After dessert, these won't wait. Of course, Oliver nodded. A proper chef never abandons their kitchen. Anna made a strangled sound and stormed out. Connor watched her go, then turned to me. I knew there was something familiar about your cooking, he said. I ate at the Golden Knife twice. Best meals of my life. Until tonight, I said, adding a perfect quenelle of vanilla cream to each plate. Until tonight, he agreed, then followed after Anna. The soufflés went out to universal acclaim. As the last plates were cleared, I finally stepped away from my station. My staff had everything under control for the remaining coffee service. I found them in a small private dining room off the main hall. Anna sat rigid in her chair while Connor and Oliver flanked her like bookends. "Sit down, Deborah." Oliver gestured to a chair. "I think it's time we cleared the air." "There's nothing to clear," Anna snapped. "She sabotaged my wedding by cooking the best meal these people have ever had." Oliver raised an eyebrow. Strange definition of sabotage. "She made me look like a fool." "No," Connor said quietly. "You did that yourself, when you tried to take credit for finding her." "I did find her." "You found your sister working in a diner," I corrected. "And instead of being happy to reconnect, you saw an opportunity to exploit my skills." "That's not true." But Anna's voice wavered. "Isn't it?" I leaned forward. "You knew exactly who I was when you hired me. You just didn't want anyone else to know. Because you're a waitress." "I'm a chef." My voice echoed off the walls. "I've always been a chef. Even when Earl took my restaurant, even when you stood by and watched it happen, I never stopped being a chef." The room fell silent. Outside, we could hear the reception continuing. Music, laughter, people still raving about the food. "I remember when you girls were young," Oliver said suddenly. "Anna would always take credit for Deborah's baking. Remember those cookies you'd bring to school functions, Anna? The ones everyone loved?" Anna's face flushed. "That was different." "Was it?" Oliver shook his head. "You've always lived in your sister's shadow when it comes to food. Instead of being proud of her talent, you tried to claim it as your own." "Dad," Connor warned, but Oliver held up his hand. "No, this needs to be said. Anna, what you did tonight, trying to launch a business on your sister's reputation, it's unconscionable." Anna's eyes filled with tears. "I just wanted—" "What?" I asked softly. "What did you want?" "To be special." The words burst out of her. "You were always the talented one, the creative one. I was just successful. Boring, corporate successful. And that's not enough? Not when people's eyes light up the way they did tonight. Not when they taste your food and call it magic." She wiped her eyes. "I thought if I could be the one who discovered you, you'd finally have some of that magic yourself," I finished. She nodded miserably. "Anna?" Connor said gently. "You don't need to steal someone else's light to shine." "He's right," I added, surprising myself. "You're successful because you work hard and you're good at what you do. That's not boring. It's admirable." Anna looked up, mascara smeared under her eyes. "Why are you being nice to me? I thought you hated me." "I did. I do. Maybe." I sighed. "But mostly I just wanted you to see me. Really see me, not as someone to be embarrassed by or use for your own gain." "I see you now," she whispered. "I'm sorry it took all this." Oliver stood up. "Well, there's still a wedding reception happening. Shall we rejoin your guests?" Anna nodded, then turned to me. Will you come out there with me? As yourself this time?" I thought about the dining room full of industry people who'd just rediscovered me, about the announcement of my new restaurant, about the years of hiding. "Yes," I said. "But first, let me change out of these kitchen whites. If I'm going to your wedding reception, I should dress for it." For the first time that night, Anna smiled genuinely. "Your food really was magic tonight." "I know," I said, standing up. "That's who I am." The reception was winding down when Anna found me at the bar, where I sat nursing a glass of the expensive champagne I'd helped her choose weeks ago. "That food critic just offered to invest in your new restaurant," she said, sliding onto the stool next to me. "I know." I swirled the champagne in my glass. "He's the third one tonight. Are you going to accept?" "No." I set down my glass. I'm doing this on my own terms this time. Already signed the lease on a small place downtown. Anna fidgeted with her wedding dress. I withdrew the paperwork for the consulting business. Probably wise. Deborah, she took a deep breath. Would you teach me? Not to cook like you. I know that's not possible. But maybe I could learn enough to appreciate what you do. Really understand it? I turned to look at her properly. The perfect wedding makeup had worn off, leaving her looking younger, more like the sister I remembered. You want cooking lessons? I want my sister back, she said quietly. And I thought maybe we could start with cooking. Before I could answer, Natasha appeared with a plate. Last one, she announced. Saved it specially. On the plate sat a perfect slice of wedding cake. Not the fancy tiered creation Anna had ordered, but a simple chocolate cake I'd made earlier and kept in the kitchen. Is that? Anna's eyes widened. Mom's recipe? The one she taught me when I was 12. I pushed the plate between us. Here, we'll share it. Anna picked up a fork with trembling hands. I haven't had this since Mom died. I know. I took a bite, letting the familiar taste flood my mouth with memories. She always said food was how you showed love. Even when you couldn't say the words, Anna finished, taking her own bite. Oh God, it tastes exactly the same. That's because I didn't elevate it or make it fancy. I smiled slightly. Some things are perfect just as they are. Across the room, Connor was deep in conversation with Oliver and several of the critics. I could hear phrases like revolutionary approach and changing the industry floating over. Your new restaurant, Anna said suddenly. When you open, I'd like to be there. Not as a consultant or an expert or whatever I was pretending to be. Just as your sister. The opening's going to be small, I warned. No fancy investors, no big press. Just good food and people who appreciate it. That sounds perfect. She set down her fork. You know, I never told you this, but I used to brag about you. Before everything. I'd tell people, that's my sister's restaurant. She has a Michelin star. Really? I raised an eyebrow. The corporate executive was proud of her chef sister? Of course I was. Still am. She touched my hand. What you did tonight, not just the food, but standing up there announcing your new restaurant, it was brave. It wasn't bravery. It was survival. I finished the last bite of cake. And maybe a little bit of revenge. A little bit? She laughed. You destroyed my consulting business before it even started. True, but I also made your wedding dinner unforgettable. Also true. She stood up, smoothing her dress. I should go. Connor's arranged for a car to take us to the airport. Maldives await. Anna? I called as she turned to leave. That cooking lesson. Come by the diner next week. We'll start with the basics. Her face lit up. Really? Really, but fair warning, I'm a tough teacher. I wouldn't expect anything less. After she left, Natasha sat down in the vacated seat. Happy with how it all turned out? I looked around the room, at the empty plates that had held my food, at the critics still buzzing about their discovery, at my sister and her new husband saying goodbye to guests. You know what? I am. I stood up, gathering my things. But right now, I need to get back to the diner. Morning shift starts in 5 hours. You're working tomorrow? After all this? Of course. I smiled. I'm a chef. We show up no matter what. As I walked through the hotel lobby, I passed the kitchen one last time. Through the window, I could see my staff cleaning up, the familiar rhythm of a kitchen winding down for the night. Soon I'd have my own kitchen again, my own rules, my own menu, my own name above the door. But tonight, I'd done something even better. I'd cooked with love, with anger, with pride, and with forgiveness. I'd served up the perfect revenge, not by destroying my sister, but by finally making her see me. Mom would have approved. Outside, the night air was cool and full of possibility. I hailed a cab, ready to head home and get what sleep I could before tomorrow's shift. After all, those hash browns weren't going to cook themselves. But this time, when I put on my diner uniform, I'd wear it differently. Because everyone now knew what I'd always known. I wasn't just a waitress who could cook. I was a chef who was finally, truly back in business.